What's up? I'm B, and whether you are watching this on YouTube or you are listening to the podcast, I hope you are having an amazing day. Today, we will be reacting to MILENA CICIOTTI's most recent video titled, "The Best Womanhood is Biblical Womanhood." It's been a while since we've checked in with MILENA. She did recently have her fourth child. She delivered her baby and seems to just be soaking up the newborn stage. I hope everything is going amazing for her. But it's been a while since we've checked in with her. But I figure, what better time than the present to check back in with her? It's been a little bit like gloomy and stormy outside, and so I feel like that's the perfect vibe to react to a MILENA video because I just kind of feel like that matches her aesthetic. You know, whenever it's gloomy or rainy or storming, I just feel like I want to be inside and be cozy, and I feel like that's kind of the same vibe that some of MILENA's videos give. Before we get into the reaction, I do want to say I remember somebody commented on a video that I had done about MILENA because in the video I was reacting to, she had filmed a bunch of footage of herself doing things around the house, like cleaning the bathrooms, folding laundry, doing stuff like that, and then she did a voiceover. And I was like, I really wish that MILENA would just sit down and talk to the camera because I feel like that would be a really comfy, a comfy, vibey video to just see her cozied up on the couch with her Bible, talking about these things, and I wish that she would do that. And somebody was like, you know, she's a really busy mom, and so she can't just sit down for 30 minutes and film a video. That's why she does the voiceovers. And I was like, that doesn't make sense because it takes longer to do the voiceovers because not only are you sitting down and you're filming, like the voiceover part, when you could have just sat down and filmed it in front of a camera, so you've taken the time to film the voiceover part, and then you also took the time to set up your tripod all around your house to follow you as you were doing chores. So it took longer, but whatever, that's beside the point. Let's go ahead and do Win for the Week, and then we will get into the reaction. If you are new around here, a Win for the Week is where you share something positive that happened to you over the past week that you would consider a win, big or small, whatever it may be. If it made you feel grateful, if it made you laugh, if it brought you joy. If you consider it a win, I want to hear about it and celebrate with you. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can leave it in the comment section down below. And if you are listening to the podcast on Spotify, you can leave it in the comment section for this episode. My win for the week is finally sitting down and filming this video. I gotta be honest, I've tried very hard not to be the person who gets pregnant and then everything I say has to do with being pregnant or during this pregnancy or because I'm pregnant or because I'm about to have a baby, XYZ, because that's not what y'all are here for. So I've tried very hard not to make that a part of everything I say. But I hope you'll indulge me because I am 29 weeks now and I'm out of breath and my ribs hurt and I'm tired and I don't have any motivation to do anything, but I love filming and I love making YouTube videos. So all day today I was like, B, you gotta get it together. You gotta get it moving. Let's go. It is time to just make the choice that you're filming. And so finally at 7:54 p.m., we're gonna film. I've got my liquid IV and soda water combination right here. We are ready to go. And that's my win for the week. And I can't wait to hear yours.
Hello. Welcome back.
Hi.
I've wandered and kind of pondered this question for months. About a year and a half ago or so, I was honestly really grieving being a woman, which sounds so crazy to say out loud, but there was a point where I was looking at my husband. He's just happy as can be. He has children, his body is the same, he doesn't have to give birth, his boobs aren't engorged, he's not making milk. I remember going through this stage, and this was even before I got pregnant, but I remember I was going through this.
We are just diving right in. All right, well, I mean, I don't know what else she's gonna say, but I guess just within the first minute or so, that makes sense. She's having a tough time with her changing body. She's, now at this point had 4 kids. And so she's definitely experienced the body changes, the pains, the insecurity, all that kind of stuff. And typically men don't have to deal with that.
And I was really just
And when I say that, I mean the insecurity that comes from your body changing because you are literally growing a human, not insecurity in general. I figure y'all know what I meant, but just in case, just wanted to clarify.
Just wrestling with like what it means to be a woman, what it means to be feminine, what it means to be made in the image of God. And I was just wrestling with this idea. And so I began just seeking God's word, because outside of God's word, there is no wisdom and it is not truth. And so the only way that I could know what I was looking into and knowing that it was going to be truth is by going to God's word. And so I began on this journey extensively of searching the scriptures.
Do we think that she meant that literally? I'm going to say probably not. That like there's no wisdom outside of God's word, because there are people who can be very wise in certain things. And also Milena said like there's a lack of wise women in the church. And so why do you need wise women in the church if the only way that we can gain wisdom is through God's word? Like if that's the only source that we can have for wisdom, as opposed to like a person's life experience that they've learned from and have in turn become like wise and knowledgeable, capable people who have good information to offer you.
Of what should be expected of a woman and how she should behave and look and dress and all of that. So a lot of it, you guys have seen the fruits of what my conclusions were based off of what you have seen online the last several years. But as I've been reading the Proverbs, which recommend everyone reading a proverb a day keeps the foolishness away, and that is the most truest statement. Nothing will convict you and humble you more than Proverbs.
Okay.
And so as I've been searching that, I know a lot of women and a lot of studies are done around the Proverbs 31 woman. Today, I am going to be speaking on those just solely based off of what I have found in Proverbs outside of Proverbs 31. So I thought I would just humbly share this with you guys today, and very practically like ways that you can edify and change and live a life that is righteous to the Lord and righteous in His eyes, and seeks to please His eyes. Because what I have found is that what the world says is not what is pleasing to the Lord. So much so that the world has made it look so beautiful and made this thing look and make it feel and look desirable. But in the Lord's eyes, He grieves that, and He is so distraught that His daughters are focusing so much of their attention on this thing that the world says is what we're to do and is good, when really what His word says is this. And we're so distracted. And the Bible tells us that the enemy is deceitful, and he comes shining like a light and looks so glorious and so attractive. And we're so seduced by that so easily because our flesh is just so easily given in. So we have to kill our flesh. We have to be rooted in what God's word says first, and then from there we can move forward and see ways that we can live to honor Him. So I apologize for my very long intro. As you can tell, I do have a very lovely baby on me today, and so if I am bouncing around and it's a little bit distracting, I apologize. It is the season of life that I am, and I am so blessed and so thankful to have a baby that really loves me and gets comfort from being with me. So that is an honor to me. So anyway, let's dive in. So like I said, pull out.
I don't know if she would consider her newest baby a Velcro baby, but that definitely is what it sounds like. She's like, what a blessing to have a baby that gets so much comfort from being near me. And I think it's sweet. I mean, obviously you carried the baby in your body, and now he's here, so it would make sense that he would want to be up and close to his mom.
Get your Bibles. If you don't have your Bibles already, get your Bibles. If you want a cup of tea or a little coffee, grab that as well, because we got lots to do, lots of flipping. So I have a huge list. At first, I had actually written out this video following Titus 2, which lists out what younger women are supposed to be like, which is to love their husbands and their children, to be kind, to be submissive to their own husbands, working at home. Like, there's a whole list on that. But I feel like I've talked quite a lot about Titus 2. And so again, I just wanted to seek God's word and see what else it says in other areas. So according to Proverbs, Now, these will apply to both a wife and also to a single woman. I think a lot of times single women feel sold out in things in regards to wifehood, but a lot of that can be applied. So anytime I mention submissive to their husbands, if you are single, that would be submissive to your father, because that is the way that things are structured. Your husband gets you from your father. So once that baton is passed over, you are now in.
Your husband gets you from your father. I don't like that. That's a very kind of outdated evangelical way of perceiving women, as if they have no autonomy and they should not be like living on their own. They shouldn't have career ambitions of their own. They should live at home until they essentially get married off. I think that is just overall can be a harmful belief system to abide by. And I think that we've seen some of the negative impacts of that, especially from the Duggar family and like the Shiny Happy People documentary, where it's the umbrella of protection, essentially, you know, God, father, mom, children, and you have to stay within that family system until you get married. But without having life experience and like freedom to make your own decisions and to explore your own options, you can end up in a situation where you're just simply unhappy because you didn't know what you wanted before you got married.
Submission from your dad to your husband. And so it is just like a baton being handed off. So if you currently don't have a husband, you are still under submission of your father, and ultimately to the Lord. And so if you don't have a father, you are in submission to the Lord. I think it's funny that we think because we don't quote unquote have a head that we're able to have like just free nilly-willy. Well, we may have a false sense control of that, but ultimately we are all called and submissive and have a head. Even your husband has to report to the Lord, which I would say is far more scarier than what we have to do, because when we stand before the Lord, we will have to take account for whether we submitted to our husbands will have to take an account for whether they led you, them, their wives, their children, unto the Lord. And so I say that they have way more to carry than we do. I have a quote from Elizabeth Elliot that I wanted to share with you in regard to kind of what I was just talking about, but she says, she is not...
That's kind of infantilizing, no? To be like, oh, well, we don't have to have that big scary accountability to the Lord. We just have to listen to our husbands, and that's all we have to deal with as women. The men really have it tough.
Not free by disobeying the rules, but by obeying them. And I thought that was like, oof, what a really good way to put it. Because I think, again, what the world says is like, oh, you're constrained by rules, you're constrained by this. And it's like, no, actually those things are really saving us. They're saving our souls. And so these are good things for us to follow. They're not limiting us. They're glorifying and allowing us to be holy like Him. Not in a sense that we'll ever be perfect, but from glory to glory. And so, just like when you tell your child...
Milena, I want you to explain to me what that means. And yes, the way that Milena used from glory to glory in this context applies. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with her saying from glory to glory within this context. Basically, what she means by that is from the time that we find Christ and we get our salvation through Him to the time that we receive eternal life in heaven. That is from glory to glory. So it works. But I don't think that we need to use Christianese all the time, because it does start to sound like word salad when we are just throwing phrases out there willy-nilly. That's point one. Point two is that it makes certain parts of Christianity feel inaccessible to people who are not as versed in the Bible as you might be. Something I take pretty big issue with when it comes to organized Christianity is that it can be pretty cliquey. And when you use language like that, it gives the impression that there's an in-group and there's an out-group. And if you understand the language and you know the lingo and you can have those conversations with the words that we are using, you're part of the in-group. If you don't know those words, if you don't know those phrases, if those aren't ringing a bell to you, you're on the outside. And it can just be an isolating experience for somebody who is trying to learn more about Christianity, somebody who is maybe a newer Christian or is newer to like diving into the Bible. It can make them feel like, I'm not good enough. Like, I'm not as good as these people because look at all of the things that they know and look at the language that they're using. And I can't even begin to understand it. Like, I always have to ask, what does that mean? And so I just think it's a good idea to like talk about religion in plain English. Talk about your faith in plain English, especially when you are presenting yourself like in an educational role. When Milena is sitting here saying like, I'm going to educate you on these things that I took notes on. This is like really nitpicky now that I'm continuing on about it, but it's simply because this matters to me. Okay. It's simply because it matters to me. I'm not taking anything too seriously. I feel like I have become a MILENA CICIOTTI apologist. Like I do tend to be a lot more lenient when I'm giving criticism of her. And I think it's because she seems to really believe the things that she's saying. Like, I don't think she's getting on here being fake, like maybe some other people that I've covered on my channel. I don't think she is talking about Christianity for attention or as part of like a social media redemption story. I think that she does believe the things that she's saying. And so I think maybe that's why I go a little bit easier on her. But anyway, a good rule of thumb when you are trying to educate somebody or when you are speaking publicly is to speak to the least informed participant. And so that means you are going to think of like, if somebody just walked in here today without any prior knowledge of what I'm talking about, are they going to be able to follow along with what I'm saying? If not, maybe I should adjust some of the phrases I'm using or just add some more context when I am speaking about certain things, so that way everyone is able to understand and follow along with the knowledge that I'm trying to share. So just something for Milena to keep in mind.
Like if I let my kids, they would eat candy from the second they wake up. They would drink 45 Cokes a day. They would have all the Coke, all the sugar, all the things in the world. They would never brush their teeth. They would never shower. Like if I let my kids do what they desired, they would be extremely obese. They would have extreme health problems, probably 0 teeth. They would probably, like, there would be a huge list of consequences based off of those actions that they think are really good and really fun, and to them, like, have no serious consequences, but they do have consequences. And so every decision that we make will have a consequence, whether we realize it or not. It can be a good decision or a bad decision, but there is an effect to every single choice that we make. So let those choices be choices that glorify and bring glory to the Lord. So, all right, next point is she smiles.
Somebody must have come in and taken that little baby because there was a cut and now the baby's gone.
Do not underestimate the power of a smile. Nothing can make someone's day more than a smile. Proverbs 15:13, a glad heart makes a cheerful face, but by sorrow of heart the spirit is crushed. And so, a woman who has the Lord, woman who fears the Lord, she has a literal smile on her face. And that smile is so contagious to everyone around her. This is something I've had to work so hard at because I am so guilty of having a restful face that is not very pleasant. And it's not that something is wrong. I don't know. I think just naturally I frown, which is so sad. But I've also noticed that everyone in my family, like I swear we all have the same family because all of our resting faces look really similar. And I just don't like that. And so especially since I've had children, especially while I'm doing chores, I try to be very mindful of what my face looks like. Yes, there are moments where I'm like super concentrated, but although other times I have to just remind myself, like, what does my face look like right now? Does it look like when I'm enjoying myself? Because there are times where I'm folding laundry and I feel like I'm more aware of this just because of solely what I do, and I do have a camera I frequently do have a camera there when I'm doing these things, so I'm more aware of that, where I like actually look back at the footage and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was so happy doing that, but it does not look like I was happy doing that. So a glad heart makes a cheerful face. So just remember to smile. A godly woman.
Okay, sure, but this isn't like gendered. This is not a gendered instruction in the Bible that women should have cheerful hearts and happy faces. This would apply to everyone. If Milena wants to take this as a literal instruction that she should be smiling, then it would apply to everybody, not just biblical women. And so I wonder if this is a conversation that she's had with Jordan. I understand that she's talking about biblical femininity and womanhood, and so she is focusing on women, but I do wonder if that's like a conversation she's had with Jordan of like, just remember to have a smile on your face because you have a cheerful heart when you're on your way to work. When you come home to see your kids, make sure you're smiling. When you're eating dinner, make sure you have a pleasant look on your face. Or if it's just something that she is trying to encourage women to do. And let me be clear, I don't think it's a bad idea to like be aware of what your resting face looks like. I've recently started doing kind of like little mini get ready with me's on TikTok and Instagram, and I am very aware now of how my face looks when I am not being intentional about smiling or like posing for a camera. We got a little bit of like a perma frown going on, and it's not that anything's wrong, it's just like that's a flat face. And for me, I'm like, oh, I hope that like that's not the face that people see when they look at me. I want to be perceived as like a kind and approachable person. And so I have been trying to like have a little bit of like a little more pleasant look on my face when I am just going about my daily tasks. But that has nothing to do with like being a woman. It's just like, oh, I look really mean and cranky, and I want to look approachable and I want to look nice. I don't want to look like that when people catch a glimpse of me. And again, it has nothing to do with being a woman, it just has to do with like being a person. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but I do wonder if that's something she's like teaching her sons too, is like, make sure you're smiling when you're doing your chores.
One that fears the Lord, she dwells with the wise. This one is huge. I would say the entire book of Proverbs has a lot to say about this. So I am pulling out my phone for a second just to read them off, just so I'm not flipping back and forth, but there's a lot in Proverbs. So
let's go.
Proverbs 14:1. A wise man fears the Lord and shuns evil, but a fool is hot-headed and reckless. This one in my translation actually says, mine says, one who is wise is cautious and turns away from evil, but a fool is reckless and careless. So we have to be very careful. If we want to be wise, we have to turn away from evil and not be reckless and careless. And in our society, it's really easy to be both of those things. We have to be cautious, which I will go in a couple, I'll talk more about that in a little bit. Proverbs 1:5-7. A wise man will hear and increase learning, and a man of understanding will attain wise counsel. To understand a proverb, the words of the wise and their riddles. Okay, Proverbs 13:20. Whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. So the wise walk with the wise. She dwells with the wise, because when you hang out with the wise, you become wise. One who is wise is cautious.
I will just say I do have Proverbs 13:20 already highlighted. And I do think that this is a good concept to abide by, just in terms of who you end up spending the most time with, because it's kind of like the phrase, you are the company you keep. If you spend a lot of time with certain people, you're going to end up picking up some of their habits, some of their traits, stuff like that. And so when you're choosing who your closest friends are going to be and who you're going to spend most of your like recreational time with, just something good to keep in mind.
Cautious and turns away from evil, but a fool is reckless and careless. The wisest woman builds up her home, but fully with her own hands tears it down. Leave the presence of a fool, for there you do not meet words of knowledge. She's wise. She's wise with who she hangs out with. She's wise with who she receives counsel from. She is wise in all the ways because she is grounded in God's word. So when she sees something that is not truth, it is really easy to spot and therefore not dwell with. All right, the next one. She watches over her tongue, her eyes, and her ears. You know that little song, oh, be careful, little one, what you see or hear? I can't remember. Either way, it applies to both of them. This is all.
I have a different version that I grew up hearing. It's be careful, little eyes, what you see, be careful, little ears, what you hear, so on and so forth.
Also a woman who fears the Lord. She's careful about what she says, she's careful about what she sees, and she's careful about what she hears. Because a wise woman, again, leaning off of the first point that I had just made, she is wise with who she hangs out with. And so it's easier for her to be able to discern what she can and shouldn't hear. Proverbs 13:3, whoever guards his mouth preserves his life. He who opens his lips becomes ruin. I'm sorry, what? Whoever guards his mouth preserves his life. He who opens wide his lips comes to ruin. Proverbs 15:18, a hot-tempered man stirs up strife, but he who is slow to anger quiets contentment. The thoughts of the wicked are an abomination to the Lord, but gracious words are pure. That was Proverbs 15:26. Now, because there are so many other verses outside of the Proverbs, like James talks a lot about taming the tongue, that the tongue, actually that's in Proverbs, but the tongue is the power of life and death is in the tongue. There's so much even outside of the Proverbs that talk about this. There's so many verses on what your eyes see is what is in your heart. And so a woman who fears the Lord, she watches her tongue. She's careful about what she sees. She's careful not to sit and scroll. This is huge, you guys. In our society, I feel like it's so normalized to idle and to be lazy and to sit on your phone. A wise woman, one that fears the Lord, does not sit and idle. Everything that she does is to enrich her life, whether that's for herself or for the ones around her, for her husband, for her children, for the widows around her, for catering, for other people. It is not for just idling and just sitting there. So be careful with your phone, because on your phone, especially with social media, you do not have the ability to, like pre-watch something before you watch it. Like, for example, if my
Okay, before she gets into that, let's just talk a little bit about the toxic mindset of not idling and making sure that you're using your time to benefit others. I think it's great to make sure that you're spending your time wisely, and it's great to make sure that you are aware of the things that you want to accomplish and the people that you want to help, and you're making choices that allow you to do those things. However, rest is also incredibly important, and I think it's kind of toxic to intimate that like sitting on your phone and just hanging out is idleness. It can be a problem. You can, develop kind of a dependency on social media, or maybe like not realize how much time you're actually spending scrolling, and then like maybe you're prioritizing being on TikTok over like spending time with your kids, or maybe you're letting that get in the way of, I don't know, keeping your house clean or like work that you need to do. And sure, let's have a conversation about that. Maybe we do need to reevaluate how much time you're spending on your phone if you are experiencing those things. But in general, I think women especially have this pressure put on them to never just be relaxing, to like never be caught not doing something. And I know that's something that I struggle with really hard, is like feeling guilty for resting and feeling guilty for like just sitting and watching TV. That's something that I've struggled with so hard, especially in the past. And especially like while I'm pregnant, because I am very, very tired. There's definitely been a lot of guilt of like, there's things that I should be doing, but I can't get up. Like, I'm so exhausted. And so that's something that's really hard to struggle with. And I think having people like Milena say, like, make sure you're never idling, make sure you are always using your time for good and for others, just further perpetuates that guilt and that shame. And it's not a healthy way to think. It's not a healthy way to like live your life, of being like, I can never be caught relaxing. I'm always got to be doing something.
Kids want to watch a movie, I can go on Rotten Apples, or I can go on a website or whatever, and kind of skim through and see what is going to be found in this movie. And I'm able to pre-screen it before my children watch it. If I'm going to read a book outside of scripture, I can go and see if this person is theologically sound, is there's going to be sexual content in it. Like, you can pre-screen things. Social media is one thing you cannot pre-screen. You have no idea what you're about to see because you're scrolling. So you could be watching videos of a fluffy bunny and then be exposed to like a totally naked woman. Or you can be exposed to incorrect theology, which is the other scary thing, is that you have to discern every single thing that you see. And lately, oh my goodness, I cannot believe the things that I see. And it's really hard because it looks really close. It seems really close. Like as I'm reading, I'm like, yes, yes, yeah. But one would not know unless they know the truth. And so brings me to my next point, is that she is discerning and eternal driven. She's discerning about what she's allowing her eyes to see and hear and speak, but she's also has eternity in mind. So she's well aware of what God's word says about who will inherit the kingdom of the Lord.
Well, how can you be discerning if you're not willing to be exposed to different ways of thinking? Like how do you learn to trust your gut, or how do you learn like when something feels off if you're not like seeking out other ideas, or if you're not open to hearing other people's ideas? With her saying like you can't scroll on social media, or you shouldn't scroll on social media because you might be exposed to unsound theology. Okay, but what if you learn something new? What if you learn something that you didn't grow up knowing, or you didn't grow up believing, and then you hear that thing and it makes you question something and you look further into it and it changes one of your beliefs for the better? You have to be exposed to other beliefs and other ideas and other religions and other like belief systems to really, I think, have a strong grasp and like deep roots in your own faith. Because if hearing something from somebody else that you end up not aligning with is gonna like be of detriment to your faith, that means that your faith isn't that strong in the first place.
Aware of the times that we are in, and she's very discerning of all things, and because of that she has eternity in focus. I think a lot of the problems that we face day to day will surely dissipate and go away if we have eternity in mind. I can give 1,000,005 things that I think women so easily let our emotions and so easily let that fester and dictate so much of our mood and so much of what we do that day, that it stops us from getting to the eternity mindset. So if you have an eternity mindset, you're consistently focused on souls rather than emotions and like sheer humans. You're more so focused on the soul of that person versus who that person is, and you are able to kind of get past the insults they might throw at you or the aggression they might have towards you. You're able to see that Christ was literally put on the cross and crucified. They hated him so much they did that to him, and so what much more could we expect to be done to us? And so having an eternity mindset, you see beyond the person, you see beyond the earthly right now, and you keep your eyes fixed on heaven and realize that there's so much more. We will literally blink and we will be gone. And so that is what keeps you focused, and the Lord is your driving force, and everything else you don't let become a distraction to the main thing, which is him. Next thing is she is not lazy, she's not busybodied, and she makes the best use of her time. I am going to cheat just a little bit, and I'm going to jump to Ephesians 5. Look carefully then how you walk, not as unwise but wise, making the best use of the time because the days are evil. Therefore do not be foolish, but understanding that the will of the Lord is. And do not get drunk with wine. Do not get drunk with wine, but be filled with the Spirit, addressing one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing and making melodies to the Lord with your heart, giving thanks always and everything to God the Father in the name of Jesus Christ, submitting to one another of reverence for Christ. So do not be busybodied. She is not lazy. I think idling is so popularized. I've done one video on that before, so I'll link that down below. But idling and sitting and not making good use of time is not honoring to the Lord, nor is it pleasing to him. Being busybodied is also not honoring to him. So she's very careful of what she's spending her time on, which again, be careful what you're seeing. If you're careful what you're seeing, you're well aware that watching shows that are just junk and trash TV is not a good time or a good thing to spend your time doing. You're well aware that hanging out with people who are just getting drunk and slandering their husbands and children is just not good to be in their counsel or around them.
Okay.
I feel like I can go on and on about this one, but in Proverbs,
what if they're drinking and they're saying nice things about their husbands? What then? Is that okay? That's just a funny example to me, but I already gave my spiel on laziness versus rest.
It speaks of this woman in the very beginning. Wait, I just came across a Proverbs that I forgot to read when I was talking about being discerning and eternally driven. This Proverbs makes me giggle and tickle like no other. It is Proverbs 11:22. Like a gold ring in a pig's snout is a beautiful woman without discretion. Like a gold ring in a pig's snout is a beautiful woman without discretion. You have discretion when you are discerning and careful about what you say and what you talk about, and you know when it is a good time to tame your tongue. You know when it is a good time to speak, and you're wise with your words. But boy, is that a very convicting verse to read.
Okay.
Next, she spends more time praying than talking. A woman that understands the power of a prayer is a woman that fears and knows the Lord. I love the story of Hannah and how she prayed to the Lord and wept at the temple and just begged the Lord to give her a son and promised that she would hand her son over. And her son ended up being Samuel. And Samuel did the most amazing things for Israel. The cause and effect of which Hannah's prayers had on all of Israel, and still like to this day, is astounding. And so don't underestimate the power of prayer. Where there is prayer, there is power. And the amount of time that one should spend in the prayer closet should be more than one should spend nagging. Proverbs 17:27, whoever restrains...
I've noticed more and more frequently Christian social media influencers talking about prayer closets, and I just gotta say, like, I don't have a prayer closet. I don't know anybody in my real life who has a prayer closet. And that's not to say that I've never met somebody who has one, but I've never heard like of anybody that I know talking about their prayer closet. And so if you're Christian or if you're religious, do you have a prayer closet, or do you know anyone who has a prayer closet? Because I guess the concept of it isn't too off. It's not like too weird to me that you would have a dedicated space to go and spend time with God. That thought isn't like totally out of left field to me. However, it's just not something that like I grew up having, and it's not something that I know of anybody in my real life having. And the more that I think about it, it probably is just because I grew up going to a non-denominational church, and this is probably something that is more common in evangelical circles. And so I'm sure that there are plenty of you who will watch this video who are like, yep, totally normal thing that like I was exposed to growing up, or like I know plenty of people who have prayer closets. But it's just interesting to me, and like the people that I know in real life compared to social media influencers, and how they all seem to be really into these prayer closets lately.
His words has knowledge, and he who has a cool spirit is a man of not of understanding. Even a fool who keeps silent is considered wise. When he closes his lips, he is deemed intelligent. A fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only expressing his opinion. I think if we could sum up a Proverbs that describes our world today, it would be Proverbs 18:2. A fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing his opinion. And so we have to be discerning. Again, pray before you speak. Pray. How different. I did I can't remember the exact title of the video, but I was talking about praying instead of nagging, and being silent, and just the art of being more quiet. And it's not to say that what you have to say isn't important, but most of the time we tend to not be so gentle in our speech. We let our emotions get the best of us. And so practicing and having the ability to control your emotions and going to the Lord first and letting Him do the heavy lifting and letting Him do the convicting and let the Holy Spirit do His thing instead of us feeling like we have to interject ourselves is so powerful. And there's been so many instances in my life where I have chosen to not. I have chosen to control and pray. And the fruit, there's nothing quite like that fruit. Lastly, she is meek, humble, and modest. Jesus was meek when He was here on earth, and of course He is what we ought to be. And so His meekness, His gentleness, and humility is just so beautiful. And I think sometimes the world in today, you have to be loud, you have to be boastful.
I don't know if I would describe Jesus as meek. Humble, sure. Meek, though. I think that Jesus was quite bold and audacious and was not afraid to like say things publicly that He knew were going to ruffle people's feathers. He wasn't afraid to call people out publicly and to associate with people that He would get judged for hanging out with, like, you know, like tax collectors. He sees Zacchaeus up in a tree. There's a whole history there, but essentially what it boils down to is that Zacchaeus was a tax collector. Tax collectors in general were hated in Judea because they worked for the Roman government, who had come in and started imposing their laws on Jewish people because Judea is modern day Israel. And so tax collectors just in general, people were not a big fan. And then Zacchaeus also happened to be Jewish. And so he was working for the Roman government, collecting money basically from his own people. And typically, tax collectors in that day, it was not uncommon for them to not only just take like the amount that was owed, but then to also take some extra on top for themselves. So anyway, Zacchaeus did not have a great reputation. He was not a fan favorite, if you will. And one day he climbed up into a tree so he could see Jesus coming through town. Jesus sees him, approaches him, and is like, hey, come down. I'm going to go to your house and we're going to have a meal together. And so that would have been like a pretty radical thing for Jesus to openly associate with a tax collector and be like, I'm going to go to your house. Let's go. So just to me, like that's not what necessarily what I would consider to be meek.
No one should boast on anything other than boasting on the Lord. Paul talks about that so much. In Proverbs 9:13, it's talking about the way of folly. A woman folly is loud. She is seductive and knows nothing. I think it's funny that it says that she is loud, seductive, and knows nothing. Being loud is not something that we should strive to be. Being like heard and like the other one was saying that our opinions, making our opinions known, that is never what we should strive for. What we should strive to do is bring glory to the Lord. And so if your opinion is backed by scripture, then by all means. But most of the time it is not. And being meek and humble and modest requires us to sit back. And 1 Peter 3:1 says that a quiet and gentle spirit is pleasing to the Lord. And I know when anyone hears, especially women here, being quiet and being gentle, we like our flesh gets offended. We feel like we're being suppressed. We feel like we can't say what we need to say, but you can. What I'm encouraging is to be mindful of what you say, because we tend to let our emotions get the best of us. We tend to do the whole spiraling thing, and we just word vomit everywhere. In my video where I talk about being quiet, I just have this picture in my mind of a woman who is a dragon, and anytime that she speaks, it's like she's speaking and breathing out fire, and everything that she's touching and speaking to is just getting scorched by her fire, and it's just like a complete disaster. There's like ashes everywhere, everything's in fire and in ruins. And I just can't help but think that if more women were meek, humble, and modest and quiet in their spirit, that there wouldn't be such fire and destruction everywhere. And so one who fears the Lord, I guess I'll make that my last one. One that fears the Lord.
I like half agree with this. The part that I agree with is thinking before you speak and making sure that what you say isn't something that's going to be maybe unnecessarily harsh or cause harm or cause destruction or be like intentionally hurtful or hateful. I think it is important to consider your words and the impact that the thing that you say might have on somebody else. But just the way that Milena's describing it, it feels very condescending. It feels like sit down, shut up, and be a good wife is the feeling that I get from it. And maybe that's a me problem. Maybe that's the way that I'm receiving the words that she's saying, and that's not her intention behind it. But to me, that is how it feels. Is like, make sure that as a woman, you just be quiet, because that's what the Bible calls for. And I'm not necessarily aligned with that.
The fear of the Lord is instruction in wisdom, and humility comes before honor. Proverbs is filled with those who fear the Lord, and how if you fear the Lord, your life will be prolonged. If you fear the Lord, it is the foundation of wisdom. So if you get anything out of this video, let it be to go to the Proverbs and seek God's word, because, man, what a kind of convicting book it is. Proverbs 19:13. A foolish son is ruin to his father, and a wife's quarreling is a continual dripping of rain. Some other verses say like a continual leaky faucet. Let us not be leaky faucets, let us be crowns. I want to be a crown. And a cheerful face. If there's any verses in Proverbs that really just like stop you in your tracks, leave that comment down below. This video is no way extensive.
I will say my version of the Bible says a foolish child is a calamity to a father. A quarrelsome wife is as annoying as constant dripping. That does make me laugh.
As I was like outlining it, I was getting so overwhelmed. I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much to say on this. There's so much to do. I feel like I barely even touched the lickety top of it. But I pray this encourages you. I pray that this helps you seek God's word first, because his word is true. Don't let the world dictate. Don't be tainted by the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And the only way to do that is to know God's word. So know God's word so it penetrates deep into your heart, and that you want nothing to do with anything else. And a huge prayer that I have is for the Lord to completely take away my appetite for anything that doesn't glorify him. Completely take my appetite for things that will not bring glory to him and bring righteousness. So pray and ask the Lord, like, take away my appetite for things that make you ick. I don't want the things that make you ick. I want the things that make you pleased.
Is that really how it ends? That really is how it ends. All right, well, you heard it here first, folks. Don't give God the ick. That was Milena's most recent video. Had a lot of opinions, and I'm sure that you do too, so I would love to hear anything that you want to say about the video in the comment section down below if you're watching this on YouTube, or in the comment section on Spotify if that's where you are listening to the podcast. And while you are leaving your thoughts, if you would consider liking this video or subscribing to my channel or leaving the podcast a rating and a review, that would be incredible. If you've done any of those things already, thank you so much. I am so appreciative of you, and I love being able to just sit here, hang out with you, and talk about whatever. Thank you so much for watching or listening. Please be kind to people, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.